So another one of the variables which we created above, and inside you're gonna do the exact same thing. Great. And join date, of course, is a variable which we created right here. So we use datefns format to format our created at date in a nice way. And in a couple of seconds, you're going to see that right here. So there we go. Now in our drawer, in each conversation, we can see the email of the user and when they joined. And we can also click this delete, which for now doesn't do anything, but we're going to create this in a model later. So you can go ahead and you can try some new conversations if you want to. So I'm going to go into my users right here. Just wait a couple of seconds for this to compile. And I'm going to select another user, and then I'm going to see their information. So I'm going to select Antonio Erdelets, for example. And once I am rerouted to the conversation of this user, I'm going to click in the drawer, and you're going to see how we are able to see the same information, but instead of the new user, about Antonio Erdelets user. So there we go, it loaded the conversation, and once I click here, you can see that I have my name, my image, my email, and also the date that I joined. Great job. You can play around this with other conversations if you want. They should all look the same, but the information should look different. So let's continue with our tutorial, and let's create this delete model and also the common model component, which we are going to reuse also for this delete, but also for this group chat button and also for our settings button in the corner. So make sure you have your drawer opened like that. And what we are going to do is I'm going to go back into my profile drawer here. So just make sure you are where we left off. And I'm going to go and scroll all the way to the top here. And I'm going to wrap this entire return function inside a fragment. So I'm just going to collapse it like this. I'm just going to open a fragment, and I'm going to wrap everything inside and indent it a bit. And I'm going to save the file. And you can expand this. So this is the view that we have. This is all we've written in the previous part. All right. And now inside of here, I'm going to add a new component called model like this. And of course, you should get a red underline because it does not exist. And one thing I want to set here is open like this. And once you save your file, you will of course get an error because model does not exist. So let's go and open our sidebar here. And let's go into the app folder, into the global components here, and create a new file called model.tsx. So we're going to create this, and then we're going to reuse it across other models that we need in the project. So make sure you classify this as use client, and let's just quickly fix this model right here. So I'm going to return a div, which is going to say hello model like this. Now you can go back into profile drawer and import this model from add/app/components/model. So I just did that right here. Great. And I'm going to save the file. And of course we have this error for is open because it does not accept that prop yet. And you can see how I have my hello model right here, but don't worry, we're gonna fix that. So just make sure you have your drawer opened like this. Great. And now let's go back into this model and let's write the interface. So interface model props is going to be is open, which is an optional boolean like this. It's going to have an onClose function, which is just an empty void, and it's going to have children, which are type of react.react node like this. And now just make sure you assign this right here, so model props like that, and then you can extract all of those. So is open, onClose, and children like that. Great. I'm going to save this file, and now when I go back here, the is open error should go away. Great. And we do have an error here because we're missing onClose. So to fix that, you can just write onClose and just give it an empty function like this. But we're still missing the children, but don't worry about that now because we're going to replace this later. I just want to write it here so you can see what we are developing. Now let's go back into our model.tsx. Again, make sure you have your drawer opened here. All right. And let's remove this and let's write transition, which you can import from headless UI React like this. So transition.root like this. And let's give this a couple of attributes. So I'm going to give it a show of is open and as fragment. and you can import fragment from React like I did right here. Great. Now inside of this transition.root, you're going to add a dialog, which you can also import from headless UI like this. Great. And this dialog is going to have a couple of props as well. So we're going to give it an as prop as div. We're going to give it a class name of relative z-50 and onClose on onClose like this. Now inside of this dialog, you're going to open a transition.child like that. And the props you're going to write here are as fragment again. Now we're going to write some animations for smooth transition when this model is opened or closed. So enter is going to be ease-out duration-300. Enter from is going to be opacity-0. Enter 2 is going to be the opacity-100. And then we're going to write our leave. So leave, make sure you do not misspell it. Ease-in duration-200. Leave from is going to be opacity-100. And leave 2 is going to be opacity-0 like that. Make sure you save your file. And we get an error because we have put nothing inside, but don't worry. Let's just continue developing. So write a div right here inside and give it a class name of fixed inset-0 bg-gray-500 bg-opacity-75 and transition-opacity again. So just make sure you don't misspell this. So transition like this and save your file. And you can see how I have this even more darkened screen. That's because in our profile drawer, we've set the model to be is open always, right? So it's not false by default. Great. So we can develop this even if our profile drawer is not open. All right, now inside of this div that we created right here, we're actually not going to put anything, but I just want to show you that you can turn that into a self-closing tag like this because it's not going to have any children. Great. And now just outside of this transition.child, I'm going to create a div inside, and I'm going to give it a class name of flex min-h-full items-center, justify-center, p-4, text-center, and smp-0 like that. And inside of there, I'm gonna open another transition.child. So this first transition was only for our background, and now we're gonna create the actual panel for our model. So transition.child, and the props it's going to have is as fragment. Enter is going to be ease-out duration-300. Enter from is going to be opacity-0 translate-y-4 sm translate-y-0 and sm scale-95 like that. And I'm just going to expand my code so you can see all of that in one line like this. Now we're going to write enter 2. It's going to be opacity-100, translate-y-0, and sm scale-100 like that. Leave is going to be ease-in duration-200, and leave from is going to be opacity-100, translate-y-0, and sm scale-100, and leave 2 is going to be opacity-0 translate-y-4 sm translate-y-0 and sm scale-95 like that. Great. Now inside of this transition, we're going to open a dialog.panel. You can save your file. I'm just going to collapse it a bit so we can see what we're working with. And in this dialog panel, I'm going to give a couple of class names here. So I'm going to write relative transform overflow-hidden like this, rounded-lg bg-white px-4 tb-4 text-left shadow-xl transition-all smw-full, smmy-8, smw-full, smmax-w-lg, and smp-6, like this. Great. Now inside of that, I'm going to write a div, and that div is going to have a class name here, in which we're going to put absolute, right dash 0, top dash 0, hidden pr dash 4, pt dash 4, sm block z dash 10, like this. And inside of there, we're going to open, I just refreshed my page, don't worry about this, a button element like that, with the type of button, class name of the following, so it's going to be rounded dash md, bg dash white, text dash gray dash 400, hover text dash gray dash 500, focus outline dash none, focus outline, sorry, ring dash 2, focus ring dash sky dash 500, and focus ring dash offset dash 2, like this. And on click to this button is going to be on close, like that. Great. And the span which we are going to write inside of this button is going to be close, but we're also going to write class name sr dash only, like this. All right. And below that, I'm going to add an icon io close, which you can import from react-icons/io5. Right. So I imported it right here. Great. And I'm going to give this a class name of h-6w-6, like this. Great. And now just outside of this div, but inside dialog panel, I'm just going to render children like this. Great. And that's how we finished our entire model. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into profile drawer right here. And at the top right here next to the user data, I'm going to add is open and set is open state, like this, and use state is going to be false by default. And then we're going to use this is model open and set is model open, like that, because we already have is open. So make sure you use this is model open here, and instead of hard coding is open, we're going to make it dynamic like this. And instead of this arrow function here, we're going to write set is open to to false, like this. And now we can try and extend this model like that. I'm just going to create a small div with a class name of bg-white p-5 and a paragraph inside hello model, like that. And not set is open, but set is model open, like that. So just make sure you use set is model open here. And we're also going to use this set is model open all the way down here. Find the trash icon, so not the close icon, but find the trash icon right here. So we have this IO trash, and of the div of this IO trash, you can give an on click like this. Set is model open. Just make sure it's an arrow function like this to true, like that. Great. But actually, you didn't have to do it here. You can do it in this div where we gave it an arrow function. So find the IO trash, and not in this first div, but in this second div right here. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to replace this empty function with set is model open to true, like this. Great. I'm going to refresh my messenger here. I'm going to open the drawer, and I'm going to click delete, and you can see that I have my hello model right here. The only problem is I don't want it to be at the bottom. I want it to be in the center. So I'm just going to resolve that and show you how to fix it. So the fix is very simple. All you have to do is go back into model.tsx right here. And inside of this transition.child element right here, what you have to do, sorry, not inside of this transition.child, right here. So where the transition.child ends, what you have to do is wrap this entire element, so all the way to here, you have to wrap that in another div. So just to make sure you found this correctly, we have the transition root, we have the dialog, we have the transition.child, and inside we have this div, and here we have the end of transition.child. So before we begin with this div, just go ahead and create another div here, and you're going to wrap the entire div inside of that. So just before the dialog ends, like this, and then you can indent this div like that, and I'm just going to expand it. So now I have this new div which wraps my entire code inside of this div like that. Great. And what I'm going to do to this newly created div is give it a class name of fixed inset-0 z-10 and overflow-y-auto like this. And now my model is centered. Great job. So now let's convert this placeholder model with an actual confirmation on whether we want to delete this or not. So in order to do that, let's go back into profile drawer where we actually are, and you can close the model. We are done with that. And I just want to rename this states right here. So instead of isModel open, I'm going to use another name for that. I'm going to use confirm open and set confirm open like that. So it indicates that we are opening a confirmation model. And all we have to do here is replace this isOpen with confirm open and this set confirm open instead of set isModel open. And you can search through your code and find where else we use this. So we also use this inside of our trash button. So make sure you find the trash button right here, and instead of set isModel open to true, use the set confirm open to true like that. And now we can save the file, and it should work exactly the same way, but it should just not throw any errors to you. Great. And now instead of using this model, we're actually going to use confirm model like this, and it's going to be a self-closing tag like this. And if you save, you're going to get an error because confirm model does not exist. So let's go into conversations ID, components, and create a new file, confirm model.tsx like that. Mark it as use client and just quickly fix the error. So I'm going to use a shorthand confirm model and with a div of confirm model like this. I'm going to go back into my profile drawer, and I'm just going to import confirm model from /confirm model right here. And you can remove this import for the model because we're going to use it inside of that model instead. Great. And now if you save, the error should go away, but you should have these type errors because we did not define any types here yet. Great. And now you can see we are back to where we came from. Confirm model just says here at the header. So let's go inside the confirm model and let's write the interface first. So interface is going to be confirm model props is going to accept is open, which is an optional boolean, and is going to accept on close, which is an empty void like this. Now just assign this props right here. So confirm model props, and then you can extract is open and on close like that. Great. What I want to do now is I want to add some functions inside of this confirm model. So first let's add the router. So const router is going to be use router, which you can import from next/navigation like this. Make sure you don't accidentally do next/router because this is next/navigation. Next, we're going to get the conversation ID from use conversation. After that, we're going to create a loading state. So const is loading, set is loading, use state, which you can import from React and give it a default value of false. What we're going to do next is we are going to create our onDelete method. So const onDelete is going to be a use callback like this. Set is loading is going to be true, and then we're going to run Axios, which you can import from Axios like I did right here. dot delete, and we're going to point to a route that we do not have yet, but we're going to create soon. So instead of normal strings, make sure you use backticks /API/conversations / open this special object and just write in conversation ID like that. And then we're going to use .then to close this model, and then router that push is going to redirect to /conversations, because this conversation is going to be deleted, so we just go back to all conversations, and router dot refresh like this. We're going to catch this as well, and we're just going to write toast, which you can import from React hot toast like this, and we're going to write toast.error, something went wrong like that, and finally we're going to set is loading to false like that. Make sure you put conversation ID and router inside the dependency array, and also make sure you put on close like that. Great, so now we have the on delete here, and now we can actually turn this into a proper model. So instead of div, we're going to use our model, which we just created. So make sure you import model from add/app/components/model like this. Great, so now let's just expand the model like this, and first let's give it the isOpen tag, and let's match it to our isOpen prop. Let's use onClose and match it to our onClose prop like that. And now inside, create a div with a class name sm flex sm items dash start like this. And before we go further, you can actually try and open this in your drawer. So open your drawer and press on the trash icon, and you should see our little model right here. It should only have a close button for now. Great, now let's start and develop this further. So I'm going to open another div right here, and I'm going to give it a class name of mx-auto flex h-12 w-12 flex-shrink-0 items-center rounded-full dg-red-100 sm mx-0 smh-10 smw-10 like this. And inside we are going to use an icon, so fi alert triangle like this, and you can import fi alert triangle like this from react-icon/fi like that. Now go back to your triangle here, and I'm going to give it a class name of h-6w-6 and text-red-600 like that. And I'm going to save this, and now you can see that I have this little icon right here. Great. And just to center it, below this items-center, you can also add justify-center, so the icon will be right here in the middle where we want it. Great. And now outside of this div which wraps our triangle, open another div right here and give this a class name of empty-3 text-center sml-4 sm empty-0 sm text-left like this. Great. And now inside of that, we're going to use dialog.title, and inside here we're going to give it also make sure you import dialog from headless UI/react. My apologies. So import dialog from headless UI/react like I did right here. Great. And now that you have this, give it a few attributes. So as is going to be h3, and class name is going to be text-base font-semi-bold leading-6 and text-gray-900, and the title is going to be delete conversation like that. Great. And now just below this dialog title, you're going to open another div right here, and you're going to give it a class name of empty empty-2, and you're going to give this a paragraph inside with a question. Are you sure you want to delete this conversation? This action cannot be undone. Or you can write whatever you want inside. So you can see we have this long text here, and let's just style it a bit. So class name is going to be text-sm and text-gray-500 like this. Great. And now we have this smooth text right here. Great. And now outside of this div, and outside of this div right here, you're going to open another div like this, and you're going to give this a class name of empty-5 sm empty-4 sm flex row reverse like that. And now we're going to use the buttons which we created in the first part of the tutorial when we were creating the authentication screen. So button, which you can import from add/app/components/button, like I did right here at the top. Great. And now this button is going to say delete like this. And you can see that I have this delete button right here. And yeah, I just made a mistake here. Make sure you don't combine these two classes. So the parent should have smflex and smflex row reverse like that. So your buttons should be in this right corner like this. Great. And now let's give this some attributes. So it's going to be disabled when our is loading state is true. It's going to be of type danger. If you remember, we defined that as well. And now you can see it's red, and on click it's going to be on delete like that. Perfect. And just below this, you can copy and paste this button because we're going to have two of them. But this one is not going to be danger, it's going to be secondary like that. And instead of on delete, it's going to say on close. And instead of delete, it's going to be cancel. Great. So now you have these two buttons right here. If I click cancel, nothing happens. But if I click delete, I should get an error that something went wrong because our delete API route does not exist yet. So let's go ahead and create that delete route. So I'm going to expand everything here. I'm going to collapse it. I'm going to go into my app folder, into API, into conversations, into conversation ID. And we already have the scene folder here, but I don't want to create anything in the scene folder. I want to create it in the conversation ID. So right click on your conversation ID folder, create a new file called route.ts. So now you should have a route.ts which is inside this conversation ID folder, and also a scene folder which has its own route. So make sure you don't accidentally create another one in the scene folder. We just want a route inside our conversation ID right here. Great. Now let's define an interface here. So interface iparams is going to accept conversation ID, which is a optional string like that. And now let's just write export asynchronous function delete like this. It accepts a request, which is a type of request. And the second argument, we're going to destructure it into params. And we're immediately going to return the type of params to iparams like this. As I've mentioned before, make sure you don't accidentally do this, because that is not going to work, or this. So params are a second argument and they need to be second in this list. Great. Now you can go ahead and open a try and catch block. I'm going to catch the error, which is a type of any here, and I'm going to console log the error with the message error conversation delete. So when you're debugging your application, you know this is where the error came from. And I'm going to return new next response, which you can import from next/server, and I'm just going to say internal error with a status of 500 like this. Great. Now I'm going to go back into my try block right here, and first I'm going to extract the conversation ID from the parameters. So conversation ID from params like that. Then I'm going to get my current user. So const current user is equal await get current user. You can import get current user from add/app/actions get current user like this. First, let's check if we don't have a current user. So if there is no current user question mark ID. In that case, return next response, return new next response, unauthorized with a status of 401 to be more correct. Great. If that is okay, we're gonna find the conversation. So const existing conversation is going to be await prisma dot conversation dot find unique. Okay, so I made a mistake here. Before you write anything further, make sure you import prisma. So go ahead and write import prisma from add/app/libs/prisma db like this. Great. And now we can go back here to await prisma, and we can now write prisma dot conversation dot find unique, where ID is conversation ID, like that. We're gonna write include users true like this. We're gonna check if there is no existing conversation. So if there is no existing conversation, return new next response invalid ID with a status of 400 like this. Great. Now, if there is, we're going to delete our conversation. So const deleted conversation is going to be await prisma dot conversation dot delete many, where ID is conversation ID, and important, we're going to protect that not anyone can remove any conversation. So only users which are part of the group can remove the group. So we're going to write user IDs has some current user.id. Great. And we're going to return next response.json deleted conversation. So I know what you're thinking. Why did I not just call this? Why do we have to look for our existing conversation here? Well, again, I'm just preparing for when we add real-time pusher, because we need to find the users inside of that conversation and in real time remove the conversation from their sidebar. So that's why we are using this. But unfortunately, we can only use include users if we use find unique. We cannot add include users to a deleted conversation. So that will not work with delete many. So unfortunately, that's why we have to do it this way. It's going to make sense in the future when we map over these users and send each and any one of them the pusher update. Great. So I'm just going to refresh this now. I'm going to expand my browser here. I'm going to open a network tab as well. Just collapse it a little bit so that I am in the desktop view. All right, and I'm going to open my network like this. I'm going to open the drawer and I'm going to click delete and delete again. All right, we got an error here. Let's see what happened. So /API/conversations. All right, we got request method delete 405 method not allowed. So let's just check what we did wrong. So perhaps this worked for you. I did not save my file. So I'm just going to try again. And yeah, it works. I just didn't save my file. Apologies. So great. After that, what I'm going to do, after I've deleted this, I'm just going to go back to /conversations like this. And my conversation should not be here, and it's not. Great. I can click on Antonio, sorry, for new, for example, now, and I can try and remove that conversation as well. So nothing we did wrong. I just didn't save my file. Apologies. Great. After I remove this, you can see that I'm rerouted back, and we're going to update this, remove this with pusher in real time. So right now it's still here until we refresh. And just for you to have some conversations, you can go ahead and go into users, and just select one conversation, so you create another one to confirm that's working as well. So let's just wait a couple of seconds for this to compile and build. And there we go. Hello, new conversation. Like that. Great. Okay, so we still have to refresh because nothing is real time yet. Great. So we finished our delete model right here, and now we're gonna reuse that model to create our group chat model and our settings model. Great job. Great, so now we're going to create our settings model. So I'm going to expand my code right here. Make sure you are in desktop view so you can see the sidebar. And I'm going to go back into my app folder, into components, sidebar, desktop slider component right here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this entire div inside a fragment. So I'm going to write fragment like this, and like this at the bottom, and then you can indent all of that here. Great. And what we're going to add here is the settings model like this, which does not exist yet, but let's go ahead and let's give it some attributes. So it's going to have the current user like this. It's going to have is open, and it's going to have on close, set is open, false, like that. Great, so we do not have the is open. We actually do, so we created this state, but we did not use it until now. Great, so just make sure you have this use state with is open and set is open. And if you save the file, you're going to get an error because settings model does not exist yet. So just make sure you go into sidebar, into components, into sidebar, and create a new file, settings model.tsx, like that. Make sure you mark this as use client and quickly fix this error using the shorthand. So settings model div settings model, like that. And now I'm going to go back into desktop sidebar and just import this from /settings model like this. And if you save, the error should go away now. All right, and I'm going to go back into my settings model and I'm going to start developing the interface for that. So interface settings model props is going to accept is open, which is an optional boolean, on close, which is a void, and current user, which is a type of user from @prisma/client like this. And then you can assign this props. So react-fc is going to be settings model props like this. You can extract here, so is open, on close, and current user like that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some hooks here and functionalities. So I'm going to write const router is equal use router from next/navigation like we did before in other models. I'm going to get the is loading state, so const is loading, set is loading, use state to false, and make sure you import use state from React like this. Great. And now we're going to add our use form. So const empty object is equal use form from React hook form, like I did right here. Great. And just make sure you execute this like that. And we're going to give this pointy brackets to this use form, and type is going to be field values, which you can also import from React hook form like I did right here at the top. Great. And inside of this object here, you're going to write default values, and you're going to give it a name of current user (name) and image of current user (image), like that. Great. And everything we're going to extract from this object is going to be register, handle, submit, set value, watch, form state, and errors like this. Great. And now that we have that, we're going to define a custom variable which is going to watch our image. Great. So go ahead and write const image is equal to watch image like this. So just make sure you don't misspell the image as you've written it here in the default values. Great. And now go ahead and write a function called const handle upload, which is going to accept result of type any. It's an arrow function which is going to call set value, which we have right here. We structured it from use form, and it's going to assign image. So just make sure that this image, this image, this image, and this image is not misspelled correctly. And it's going to assign result dot info dot secure underscore URL like this. And make sure you open an object at the end as a third parameter and write should validate true like this. Perfect. Now you have your handle upload. And now we're going to have a const on submit, which is a type of submit handler, which you can import from React a hook form as we did with use form and field values like that. And it's going to accept field values in these pointy brackets. Just write field values, which we already have imported. So that means it's going to have a data, open an arrow function like this, set is loading to true, and we're going to make an Axios call. So make sure that you import Axios from Axios like I did here, and just write Axios.post /API/settings like that, and pass in the data. Then what we're going to do is we are going to call router.refresh, and we're going to trigger the manual on close. In .catch, we're just going to throw toast, which you can import from React, hot toast like I did right here. Great. And the toast is going to be .error, something went wrong like this, and .finally is just going to be an arrow function which resets the set is loading to false again. Great. And now that we have that, we can start developing the UI for our settings model right here. So instead of this div, it's going to be a model component which you can import from /model because we are already in the components folder. Great. So just make sure you import your model from /model. Since we are already in the app components, what we do is we go outside the sidebar folder and target this model right here. Great. So now that you added this model, give it an isOpen to isOpen prop, and onClose our onClose prop like that. Great. Now inside we're going to open a form. We're going to give this an onSubmit of handle submit on submit like that. So we use the handle submit from use form, and we wrap that around we wrap our onSubmit around handle submit, so we have this data which is either going to be an image or the username. Great. And just to see what we are doing, what you can do is you can go back into desktop sidebar in the settings model, find this set is open, scroll all the way down and find your avatar, and we already set the set is open to true. So just make sure you have this around your avatar in the desktop sidebar around the div. Make sure you have an on click, and then when you click here, it should open a model that looks empty. Great. Now go back into settings model right here, and let's continue developing this form. So open a div and give it a class name of space-y-12. Inside, create another div with a class name border-b border-gray 900/10. So /10 means opacity 10, and pb-12 like that. And inside an h2, which is going to say profile like this, and give it a class name of text-base font-semi-bold leading-7 and text-gray-900 like this. And just below this h2, create a paragraph which is going to say edit your public information like that, or whatever you want it to say, and give it a class name of empty-1 text-sm leading-6 and text-gray-600 like that. Great. So now that we have that, just below this paragraph, create another div like this, and you're going to give it a class name of empty-10 flex-col and gap-y-8 like that. And now we're going to reuse our inputs from the out form that we created. So input, which you can import from /inputs/input. So like I did here. So like we did with the model, we go outside of our sidebar into the inputs and we target the input. So that's why we're doing that. Great. It's a self-closing tag. Now we're going to give this a disabled of is loading. We're going to give it a label of name. We're going to give it an ID of name. We're going to give it an errors of errors, and required and register of register like this. Great. So now we have this name, and it immediately filled our Antonio name here. Great. That's exactly what we wanted. And now inside of this div, which we are going to create below this input, you're going to create a label like this, which is going to say photo, like that. And let's go ahead and give some class names to this label. So it's going to be a block, text-sm, font-medium, leading-6, text-gray-900, like that. Great. And now our photo label is going to look like the label for our input. The reason we are not using the input here is because it's not going to be a normal input. It's going to be specially designed for image upload. So below this label, create a div like this, and give it a class name of empty-2 flex items-center and gap-x-3, like that. Now inside, we're going to use an image component from next/image. So just make sure you import that image from next/image. All right, go down to your image here and give it a width of 48, give it a height of 48, class name of rounded-full, and source is going to be either an image, pipe current user ?.image, or pipe is going to be our default /images/placeholder.jpg, like that. And of course, give it an alt of avatar, like this. Great. So now you can see that it's using this default image right here. But if we upload an image, it's going to use that image. Or if we already have an image in our current user, it's going to use that image, which is exactly what we want. Great. Now, just below this image, we're going to use a component from Nextcloudinary, CLD upload button. So just make sure you import this from next-cloudinary, like that, like this. We're going to give it options of max files 1. On upload is going to target handle upload, which we defined above, and upload preset is going to be, you can either find it in your Cloudinary settings, or you can find it where we did it in the form where we upload our images. So we created this upload preset, and you can just copy it. So if you don't know where this is, in your conversations folder, in conversation ID, in components, form. So we already have image upload for our messages, and you can reuse that exact preset. So just go ahead, copy it, go back into your settings modal, and paste that same preset to the upload button here. Great. And now we're going to add our button component. So make sure you import that from /button. So the same way we did for modal and input. So /button. And in here, you're going to write change like this. You're going to give it a disabled of is loading, and it's going to be secondary, and type is going to be button, like this. Great. So now you have this button, which when clicked should trigger an upload of an image. And if you try and upload an image, if our form works correctly, if I select this, for example, and after I upload it, it should change your photo to this. Why? Well, because we target this image, which is in our watch right here, where we defined it at the beginning. Great. So now that we have that, what we have to do is we have to create the submit button. So just go right here to the bottom where we have the last /div, the last /form, and /model. So right here where I left the space, like that, and you can just create a new div right here. And I'm gonna give this a class name of empty-6 flex items-center justify-end gap-x-6, like this. Great. And now inside of that div, create a button like this with a text of cancel. Give it an attribute of disabled is loading, secondary, and on click, on close. like this. So now you will have your cancel button, and you can go ahead and copy this button since we're gonna have two of them. The second one is not gonna be secondary, so you can remove that. And the type is going to be submit, so it's not gonna have any on click. It's going to call our form on submit right here. Great. So just make sure it's inside of the form. And instead of cancel, it's going to be save like this. Great. So now if you try and change your name, for example, I'm going to change it to Antonio2 and click save. Everything should be disabled for a second, and then we're going to get an error, of course, because the route which we defined right here in the handle submit does not exist. And that's what we're going to create now. So I'm going to open my sidebar, I'm going to collapse everything, and I'm going to go into app, into API, and I'm going to create a new folder called settings. And inside settings, I'm going to create a new file, route.ts, like this. I'm going to export asynchronous function post. It's going to accept request, which is a type of request. We're going to open a try and catch block. In our catch, we're going to catch an error, which is a type of any. We can console log the error with a error settings message, so we know where it's coming from, and just return a new next response, which you can import from next/server with a message of internal error and a status of 500, like this. Great. Now inside of our try, first let's get the current user, so const current user is equal await get current user, which you can import from add/app actions get current user, like this. Body is await request.json, so we destructure the body like this, and inside the body we get the name and an image like that. First let's check if our current user is here, so if there is no current user !.id, in that case return new next response unauthorized with a status of 401, like this. Otherwise, let's update our user, so const updated user is equal to await Prisma, and just make sure you also add Prisma, so import Prisma from add/app/libs/Prisma db, like this. Great, so now we have the Prisma, so await.prisma.user.update where id is equal to current user.id, like that. And the data which we are going to update is image, and name. If you want to, you can also use shorthands for this, but this works just fine. And then just return next response.json updated user, like that. Great. Make sure you save this, and now I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna open my network tab here, and I'm going to click, I'm going to change this to Antonio3, and I'm going to click save, like this. We have our settings right here, and there we go. And now I'm going to refresh my page, and you can see that my name has changed. So right here I'm in a different conversation, but you can see that I sent this message and now it says Antonio3. It has my new image, and I have my new image here at the bottom, and you can see how it's right here. And you can try, for example, Mark. This is my new name. I'm going to click save again, and if I refresh again, you can see now it says Mark right here, and if I open my settings folder, it says Mark. Great job. You finished the settings model. In the next part, we're going to create the group chat model. So let's continue with our development, and let's create a model to create a group chat. So first, I want you to open your sidebar right here. I'm going to collapse everything, and I'm going to go into the app folder, into my conversations, into components, and I'm going to select conversation list. So not conversation box, conversation list, like this. I'm going to try and expand this if it's possible. Great. So make sure you select conversation list like this. Great. And I'm just going to expand this. Make sure you are in desktop mode as well, so you can see this plus button here. Great. So now that you're in conversation list here, I want you to add another state just below this one. So go ahead and write const is model open, comma, set is model open, like this, is equal to use state and default value is going to be false. And now we're going to use this set is model open when we click on this button right here next to the messages text. Great. So copy this set is model open right here and go ahead and just find a div that wraps the MD outline group add. In my case, that is this div right here. It should be the same for you. And just add on click is equal to an arrow function, which sets the set is model open to true like this. Great. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this entire aside thing into a fragment. So just go ahead and write a fragment like this and go all the way to the bottom and end the fragment like that. And now you can go ahead and indent everything inside. So it should look something like this. So your fragment should wrap the entire aside element here. And inside of here, we're going to create a new element called group chat model, which does not exist yet. We're going to create it. And the props I want to pass here is open to be is model open, and on close is going to be an arrow function. Set is model open false like this. If you save, you're going to get an error because group chat does not exist. So let's just fix that quickly. Right here in your components, you can go ahead and create a new file, group chat model.tsx like this. So go ahead and mark this as use client like this, and just do a shorthand to fix the error. So group chat model for me is just going to be a div group chat model like this, and go back into your conversation list and just import that at the top. So the group chat model is not defined error goes away after you hot reload. And don't worry about this type error, we're gonna fix that soon. So now you should see the text group chat model above your messages, but we're gonna turn that into a proper model. So before we start doing that, what I want you to do is I want you to open your sidebar and go into conversations folder into layout right here. So the place where we call our conversations, and alongside conversations we're also going to call our users, which is an action we already have because we have the users page. So go ahead and write const users is equal to await get users, and you can import that from /actions/get users like this. So the same way you did with get conversations, just import get users. We already have that, and now just make sure that in conversation list you pass in the users like this. Now we have this error, of course. So let's just go ahead back into our conversation list and let's add users, which is a type of user, which you can import from @prisma/client, and make sure you put an array at the end and save the file. And if you go back into your layout, there should be no error for you sending users here. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's also pass users to this group chat model here. So I'm going to write users is equal to users like this. So group chat model should have the users is open and on close. And of course, make sure you actually destructure the users from the props here in the conversation list after you've added it to the types. And then if you save, you should not get this error users is not defined. Great. And now we can go and focus on developing our group chat model here. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write an interface for it. So interface group chat model props. It's going to accept is open, which is an optional boolean, on close, which is just an empty void, and users, which is a type of user, which you can import from @prisma/client, and make sure it's an array like this. Now use react-fc to just add these types right here, and feel free to extract all of those props. So is open, on close, and users like this. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add some actions here. So I'm going to add const router is equal use router from next/navigation. Const is loading, set is loading is going to be use state, which you can import from React, and make sure the default value is false. So I imported use state from React and use router from next/navigation right here. Great. And now we're going to create our use form functions. So const open an empty array and just write use form, which you can import from React hook form. Go ahead and open the pointy brackets, and the type is going to accept is field values, which you can import from React hook form as well. open parentheses and open an object inside, and we are just going to define the default values like this. It's going to have a name, which is by default an empty string, and members, which is an empty array by default. Great. And now we're going to extract something in this object right here. So go ahead and write register, handle submit, set value, watch, and form state, and destructure errors from it like this. Great. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and we can watch our members. So the same thing we had to do in our settings model with the image. So const members is equal watch members like this. Make sure you don't accidentally misspell members. So make sure that members is here, and members is here. Great. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create our onSubmit function. So const onSubmit is a type of submit handler, which you can import from React hook form alongside field values and use form like that. Open the pointy brackets and just write field values inside. You should already have that. It's going to be an arrow function which accepts the data as the parameter. Open an object like this and just write set is loading to true. And then we're going to initiate an Axios call, which you can import. And you can import Axios from Axios like this. And just write axios.post/API/conversations. So it's the same route that we are calling when we create a single one-on-one conversation. But if you remember, in our conversations API route, we also created the functionality to create a group chat. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread this data, and we're going to add an important value here is group to be true like this. Great. On .then, I'm going to create an arrow function and just write I'm going to open it like this. And first I'm going to do router.refresh. And then I'm going to do onClose like this. In the .catch, I'm going to do an arrow function which calls a toast, which you can import from React hot toast like this. And it's going to call an error. Something went wrong like that. Great. Okay, so I have an error here. Oops, my bad. So make sure you import toast like this, and I'm just going to retype this since I obviously made an error. So error, something went wrong like that. And finally, in which arrow function, we're just going to set is loading to false back again. Great. You completed the onSubmit function here, and now we can go ahead and start developing the model. So instead of the div, it's going to be a model, which you can import from add/app/components/model like this. So just make sure that you've imported it like I did right here. Great. I'm going to go here. I'm going to give it some props. So is open. We're going to give the prop is open like that. On close, it's going to be on close like that. Great. Now inside of this div, we're going to open a form element like this, and we're going to give it an onSubmit of handle submit, and just wrap our custom onSubmit inside of it. So again, we do this so our onSubmit can have access to this data, which is a type of field values, and field values is defined here, and they are controlled by the use form. Great. So now that we have the form, let's go ahead and create a div inside, and let's give this div a class name of space -y -12 like this. And before we move any further, I suggest that you click on your icon right here, and it should open an empty model so you can actually see what you are developing, so you don't develop blindly. Great. Now inside of this div, let's go ahead and let's write another div, and let's give it a class name of border-b border-gray-900/10 pb-12 like this. Great. Inside of that, we're going to add an h2 element, and we're going to give it a class name of text-base font-semi-bold leading-7 and text-gray-900 like this. Great. And inside of the h2, we're going to write create a group chat like that. And just below this h2, we're going to create a paragraph, which is going to have a text of create a chat with more than 2 people like this. And let's give this a class name of empty-1 text-sm leading-6 text-gray-600 like that. Perfect. And now just below this paragraph right here, we're gonna open another div. We're gonna give this a class name of empty-10 flex-call and gap-y-8 like this. Inside of that div, go ahead and import the input, which we already used a couple of times in this project. So add/app/components/inputs folder and the input element. So just like this. Great. It's going to be a self-closing tag. And what we're going to give it is register. And we use register from use form destructuring like this. Great. Below that, we're going to give it a label of name, an ID of name, a disabled of is loading, and required like this. And let's also give it the errors like that. And an input should be shown right here. Great. What we have to do next is we're going to have to create a select component. So I'm just going to prepare it here. So just write select. It does not exist yet. It's going to exist soon. Give it a disabled of is loading. Give it a label of members. Give it an options of users.map user. Go ahead and open an immediate object like this. Value user.id and label user.name like that. And for an onChange, you're going to write an arrow function which accepts the value in its parameter right here, and you're going to call setValue, which we have destructured from form state in use, from use form right here. Open parentheses here, and first we define what value we want to update. Well, we want to update the members value. That's why we watch it separately, because it's not like our regular inputs. So just go ahead and write members here as well. Great. Go ahead and open the third parameter. The second parameter is going to be the actual value like this, and the third parameter is going to be an object. So go ahead and expand it and just write should validate true like this. Great. And also give it a value of members like that. Where do we get the members from? Well, from the const members watch members. So just make sure that you have members in the default value as an empty array. Make sure you have a variable called members with a watch function with the same string members. Make sure you set the value to those exact members, and make sure you have the value prop members. So the value prop is very important right here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create this select button right here. So let's go ahead and let's open our navigation here. Let's go into components, into inputs folder, and create a new file, select.tsx like this. Mark it as use client like that. And let's just quickly fix the error. So select. I'm just going to write div select like this. I'm going to go back into my group chat model, and I'm just going to import this from add/app/components/input/select like this. You can go ahead and save the file. So this is how I imported the select, the same way we did with the input. Great. The select is not defined error should go away any second now. And now we're going to go ahead and actually fix these errors. So just make sure you have your model opened like this. Go back into select.tsx, and first let's write the interface for it. So interface select props is going to be a label, which is a type of string, a value, which is optional, and a type of record. Open pointy brackets, string comma any. OnChange is going to accept the value, which is a type of record, string comma any, and just an empty void like this. Options is going to be an array of record any. So go ahead and write it like this. So record string comma any, and just put an array at the end so the type is correct. And disabled is going to be an optional boolean like that. Great. And now just use react.fc to properly assign this select props here. And now we can go ahead and destructure all of them inside. So label, value, OnChange, options, and disabled like that. Perfect. And now let's go and let's start creating our select. So first let's give this a class name of z dash open square brackets 100 like this. Great. Now inside, I'm just going to remove this text. So I'm going to write a label like this. I'm going to give it a class name of blocks, text-sm, font-medium, leading-6, and text-gray-900, like that. And inside the label, we're going to use our label prop, which we destructured right here and which we set as required, and of course, which we sent in the select in the group chat. Make sure you send all of this, otherwise you might be getting some errors while you're developing this. Great. So now that we have the label, let's go ahead and let's open a div. And let's give this a class name of empty -2. Great. So now we have to install a package called React Select to create our autocomplete. So let's go ahead and let's go into terminal. I'm going to close everything and I'm just going to write npm install react-select like this. Wait a couple of seconds for this to install. Great. And now I'm going to go ahead and run npm run dev. Again, I'm going to close the terminal and I'm going to refresh my application just in case it has the hot reload is not working. Great. So now we can start developing the React Select right here. I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds for my page to load. Great. And now I'm going to add React Select, and we're going to import React Select from React Select. So just go ahead and write import React Select from React-select like this. Usually you might see examples of select from React Select, but that is a problem because our component is named select. So just make sure you don't have the same name as our component. So I'm going to use React Select from React-select like this, and then we can safely use it right here. Great. It's going to be a self-closing tag like this, and let's go ahead and give it some props. So is disabled is going to be our prop disabled like this. Value is going to be value like this. On change is going to be on change. Is multi is going to be the true, so you can either write it like this or you can use a shorthand like this. It's the same thing. Options is going to be options like that. Menu portal target is going to be document.body. So the reason we're using this menu portal target is because our auto select is inside a model. So that causes some problems with Z index and overflowing. So that's why I did this fix to target the document body. Great. And we just have to give it a style. So styles, go ahead and open an object like that. Menu portal base, and open an object like this, spread the base inside so these styles will stay intact, and we're just going to modify the Z index of it to 9999 like this. Great. And last thing we're going to add in the styles, sorry, not in the styles, my bad. So that's it for styles. Just go ahead and add class names. So not class name, class names, and open an object and write control and just open an arrow function, which is going to say text-sm like this, and save your file. And in a couple of seconds, there we go. You can see my input and you can see my users. So I have new, I have Antonio Erdeles like this. Great. So just make sure when you're testing this that you have enough users. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a couple of users so you can get the best experience when creating this. So I'm just going to log out here and I'm going to create a couple of more users. So I'm going to click create an account. I'm going to add, I don't know, John. And I'm going to register. So I should have about 4 users now. I think that's enough to create a good group chat. So let's just wait a couple of seconds there. So we have new, Mark, Antonio, and myself, which is John. Great. And I'm going to go now in my conversations. I'm going to expand everything here. And I'm going to open my network tab. Okay, I have to expand this a little bit more because I'm just not seeing my, whoops. Excuse me. Okay, I'm gonna open my network tab to see if something accidentally goes wrong. I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna create this a group chat like that. Whoops. So group chat. And for the members, I'm gonna select new, Mark, and Antonio. Great. And actually, we cannot test it because we have not completed the model. I'm sorry, I forgot to add the buttons. Okay, I'm just gonna collapse everything here. And now let's go back into our group chat model. So we are done with the select. My apologies, I forgot that we are missing a couple of things we have to add here. So what you want to do is go just outside this last div, but still inside the form. Open your model and go ahead and write div like this. Give it a class name of empty-6 flex items-center justify-end and gap-x-6 like that. Great. And inside we're going to use our button, so just make sure you import that from add/app/components/button like this. And it's going to have a text of cancel, so that's going to be the first button. And let's go ahead and just give it a disabled of is loading, and on click to be on close, a type to be button, and secondary as a prop like this. Below that we're going to have another button, and this one is going to have a text of create like this, and all it's going to have is disabled, which is loading, and the type is going to be submit. So this is going to be instead of on click. So when we submit the form, which is wrapping this entire thing, is going to be calling this on submit right here. So now you can expand this. I'm going to open this right here. I'm going to open my network tab to see if we are doing everything correctly. And you can try and click create right here. I'm going to open this to see what my payload is. Great. So what we sent is group true, and we sent an array of values which hold our IDs and the name of the users and the name of group chat. Great. And apparently it's been created successfully. So I'm just going to refresh this to confirm that. Great. And we have the group chat right here. One thing we have to modify now is we don't want to display a random person's from the group, a random person image from that group chat. You can see how we have the group chat here. We use 4 members here. Great. But you can see we have no information here because remember we did some conditionals that we only display if it's not a group chat. So what we have to do now is we have to create a component called avatar group, which is going to display 3 avatars from the group chat. And we have to modify this drawer a little bit so we can actually show some information about the group chat. Great. So let's go ahead and let's create that avatar group component. So I'm going to just expand this a little bit. Make sure you are in desktop view. Oh, great. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my conversation box component like this, and we're going to find where we use our avatar component. So just go ahead and find where we use that. So there we go. It's line 86 in my case. So go ahead and find the avatar component. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a dynamic render of this. So we're going to add data.isGroup question mark, open parenthesis, and write avatar group like this. And otherwise, we're going to render the avatar which we are used to seeing by now. Great. And what we're going to pass in this avatar group is not user, but users. And it's going to use data.users like this. And if you save the file, of course, you are going to get an error because avatar group does not exist. I mean, you're only going to get an error if you have a group chat available. Great. And now let's go into our app folder, into components where we have our avatar, and just create a new file called avatar group.tsx. So group.tsx like this. I'm going to mark this as use client like that. And I'm going to create a shorthand avatar group with a div avatar group like this, just to fix the error. So go back into conversation box and just import avatar group from add/app/components avatar group. So the same way you did with avatar. Great. And now the error should go away and you can go back into avatar group and start developing it. So you can see we have this weird text here right now for our group. So what we're going to do is write interface avatar group props users question mark user, which you can import from app prisma/client and just add an array like that. And then you're going to write react.fc, open the pointy brackets, and write avatar group props like that. And you can expand them here, users like this. Great. So first, we're only going to use 3 users from our group chat, so we're not going to do more than that. We're going to write const sliced users to be equal to users.slice 0 dash 3 like that. And what I recommend doing is giving this user prop a default value of an empty array, so you don't have to use this question mark like that. Great. So once you get that, this way we get the first 3 users, and now we're going to write a const position map, which is going to be an object which is going to hold values on how we want to position every of our elements. So the first avatar is going to have a class of top -0 left dash open square brackets 12 pixels. The second is going to have a bottom -0, and the third one is going to have bottom -0 and right -0 like that. Great. So the first one is going to be at the top and kind of centered. The second one is going to be in the bottom left corner, and the last one is going to be in the bottom right corner. Great. And now we can go ahead and remove this text inside like that. Let's give some class names to this div. So class name is going to be relative h-11, whoops, and w-11 like that. Now inside, we're going to map over our sliced users. So sliced users.map user and index, open and immediately return a div like this. So go ahead and close the div like that. And what you're going to do is going to give it a key of user.id, and class name is going to be, so make sure you use backticks like this, and just write absolute inline dash block rounded dash full overflow dash hidden h dash open square brackets 21 pixel w dash open square brackets 21 pixel like that. And then you're going to use this special object in which we're going to look through the position map, and depending on whether the user is first, second, or third, we're going to assign that class to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to write position map inside this special object, and we're going to add index. And now we just have to fix TypeScript. So as key of type of position map like this, and the error should go away. So basically what we're doing is we're using a number which is either 0, 1, or 2, because there are only 3 users which we pick, and then we map that index to the class name, so either 0, 1, or 2. Great. And now inside of this div, go ahead and import image from next/image like that. So just confirm that you imported it from next/image like that. Great, it's a self-closing tag. Give it an alt of avatar, give it a fill property, and source, which is either user !image pipe /images /placeholder.jpg like that. And go ahead and save your file. And now you should be able to see the 3 users. There we go. So I have the Antonio user, the Mark user, and a new one. Great job, amazing job. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try and send multiple messages in this chat. So I'm gonna write what is my name here. So John, I'm gonna write test John message like this. We don't have real time yet, so I'm not sure when it's been sent. So you can go ahead and just refresh until it appears here. So there we go. So test John message. You can see that I've sent it. Now I'm gonna log out and go back into my other account. So Antonio, I'm gonna go back in now. Let's just wait a couple of seconds. I should also have the group chat here since I've been added to that group chat. There we go. And you can see that I get this test John message here, which I've not seen yet. Great. And I'm gonna write test Mark message since I renamed this account to Mark, if you remember. I'm gonna refresh here as well to ensure that I've gotten this message. So there we go, test Mark message. Great. And I'm also gonna log out and just confirm my last user, so new like this. If I have that account, I do. Great. So I'm gonna go back into my conversations. You can see I have test Mark message here. Okay, so it's not, oh, it did update. Great. Okay, and here I'm gonna write test new message like that. So now you can see that our group chat is working. So these are assigned on the right side, and my message is going to be assigned to the right side. Great job. So now we have to add that avatar group back into our header as well. So what you're gonna do here is go and find your header component. So go into conversation ID, components, header, like this. Go ahead and find the avatar. So for me, it's line 69. And let's just create a conditional. So conversation dot is group question mark. And in the first one, what we're gonna write is going to be just avatar group, which you can import from @/app/components avatar group. So the same way you did with avatar, like that. And you're gonna pass in the you're gonna pass in conversation.users, like that. Great. And there we go. Now we have the group chat in the header as well. And now let's just go and fix the drawer. So we have to add the same thing here. So just go ahead and go into profile drawer component in the conversation ID folder right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the avatar. Let's see. Okay, so for me, it's line 163. And we're going to create a conditional. So data.isGroup. So the same way we did with our previous components, like this. And if it's group, it's going to be avatar group, which you can import from @/app/components avatar group, and just pass in the users data.users, like this. Make sure you imported the avatar group from @/app components avatar group, like this. And now if you try the drawer, you can see that we have the very same thing. Great. So one thing I want to do now, I'm just going to expand this. Make sure your profile drawer is open. So let's add some information to this drawer if we actually have a group chat. Great. So go all the way down and you're going to find where we have this value as data is group, but we put an exclamation point. So these are only the values which render if the conversation is not a group. So just before the first one right here, so inside this DL element, so for me it's line 230, for you it might be something else. So just find this first data is in group, like that, where we write the email. And what you're gonna do here is open a conditional, write data.isGroup, like this. So this time without the exclamation point at the beginning, and end, open parentheses like that, and open a div inside. And just go ahead and write DT element like that. Give it a class name of text-sm, font-medium, text-gray-500, smw-40, sm flex-shrink-0, like that. And inside just write emails like this. Great, so now instead of email, we have emails like that. And outside of this DT element, create a DD element like that and give it a class name of empty-1 text-sm text-gray-900 sm call-span-2. And inside we're going to iterate over our data conversation users and display each user's email. So go ahead and write data.users.map, pick a user, open an arrow function like this, and just write user.email. Great, this is going to create an array of user emails, and at the end all we had to do is write .join, put a comma, and put a space inside the string so there is room between each email. And there we go, now we have all the emails of the users which are in this group chat. Great job, and delete will work as well. Great, so you have the group chat now. All that's left before we move on to creating real-time communication is to create this model for the image when we click on it, and also to create some loading states, because right now when you click in between stuff, when you change stuff, it just looks weird, it looks very slow. But we're gonna add some loading states so it looks much better. Great. And you can try and click create like this, it won't allow you. You can try and create a name and maybe just add one user and click create. And you should get an error back, because in our API conversations for the group, we made sure that there are at least 2 members in that group. So let's see what happens. Perhaps we need to protect it to 3 users. Let's see what happens if we do that. Great, so I think this is actually a mistake because, oh no, it's not, it's completely correct. Yes, sorry, my bad. It is completely correct. It's working as intended. How come there are 3 users if we just created them with 2 of them? Well, because we are the 3rd user. So this code is completely correct. Great job. So what I'm gonna do now, make sure you have sent a message with an image somewhere, and we're gonna create a model which will open on this image. So go ahead and open your sidebar, go into conversation ID, sorry, not in the API. So go into your conversation ID, into components, and select message box component right here where we have the seen by and basically our messages. And just go here to the top where we have the session, and just below that, go ahead and add a state. So const image model open, set image model open, like that. Use state, which you can import from React and give it a default value of false. Make sure you imported the use state like that. Great, so image model open and set image model open like this. So now what I want you to do is I want you to find where we have this image right here and add an onClick to this image and just write an arrow function, set image model to be true like this. Great. And inside of this div of this data image, we're also going to add our model. So go ahead and write image model like this, which of course does not exist now. Let's go ahead and just give it some props, which we are going to need. So source is going to be data.image, is open, is going to be image model open, on close, is going to be an arrow function, set image model open, false, like this. And of course, if you save the file, you're going to get an error because image model does not exist. So let's quickly go and in this same folder where we have the message box, create a new file called image model.tsx, like that. Mark it as use client. And let's just quickly fix this error. So image model. I'm going to create a div, which is just going to say, as always, image model. Great, so now that we have that quick fix, let's go back into message box and let's just import the image model from /image model like this. Great, and you can save this file. The error should go away. And of course, you have the type errors, which we're going to fix now. So after your error goes away, go back into image model component right here. And let's start by defining the interface for it. So I'm going to go ahead and write interface image model props is open question mark boolean, on close is going to be an empty void, and source is going to be either a string or null like this. Go ahead and use react.fc to assign image model props like that. Just extract is open, on close, and source like this. Go ahead and write if there is no source, we're just going to return null. Otherwise, it's going to be a very simple model. So we're going to use the model component, which you can import from add/app/components model, like I did right here. And inside of the model, we're just going to assign is open to be is open, and on close, like this. And we're going to create a small div inside with a class name of w-80 and h-80. And we're going to use an image component from next/image like this. Let's give it an alt of image. Let's give it a class name of object-cover. Let's give it a field property, and source is going to be source like that. Great. And after you've saved this file, you should not have any errors in the image model here, and you can go ahead and try click right here. I'm just going to refresh to make sure everything is reloaded. So let's just wait a couple of seconds, and there we go. You can see that I have my image in a model. So if you got an empty model, make sure you refresh. Great job. So all we have to do now is add the loading states, and then we are ready to wrap up this tutorial by adding real time with pusher, which is going to be very simple, and then we are going to deploy that to Vercel. Great. So now let's finish the last part before the real-time notifications, and that is the loading model and loading states. So I'm going to close everything here. I'm going to go into my app folder, into components, and I'm going to create a new file called loading model.tsx, like this. I'm going to mark it as use client. I'm going to import React and fragment from React. I'm going to import dialog and transition from @headless UI React, and I'm going to import clip loader from React-spinners, which is a package that we have to install. So go and head into your terminal right here and run npm install React-spinners like this. Wait a couple of seconds for this to install and do npm run dev again, and just to refresh your local host so everything is up to date. Great. And now let's start with our component. So I'm going to write const loading model like this, and it's going to immediately return our, whoops, just make sure you don't use the invalid brackets. So return transition.root like this, show as fragment like that. So usually when we do the show, we do something like is open, but that's not how we're going to use our loading model. So our loading model is always going to be open because we're going to render it in a different way. And then we're going to use the dialog as div with a class name of relative z-50. And the dialog needs to accept an onClose. So for that, we're just going to give it an empty function like this and close the dialog. So I'm just going to collapse this attributes right here so you can clearly see what I've written. Great. Now inside of that dialog right here, add a transition.child like that. Give it an as fragment like that. Enter ease-out duration-300. Enter from is going to be opacity-0. Enter to is going to be opacity-100. Leave is going to be ease-in duration-200. Leave from is going to be opacity-100, and leave to is going to be opacity-0 like that. And now you can just go ahead and write a div inside. It's going to be a self-closing tag, so you can write it like that. And we're going to create our overlay now, so just give it the class name of fixed inset-0 bg-gray-150, sorry, -100 bg-opacity-50 and transition-opacity like this. Great. And now just to test this out, what you can actually do, make sure you export default loading model like this. Great. And now you can use this loading model. So where I'm going to go into the user box component. So just go and make sure you select the users in the sidebar right here. So you're not in messages, but you should be in users. So like this, you should see people here. Great. And now inside, go ahead inside your users, inside components, and select user box like this. And go ahead and wrap this entire div inside a fragment like that. And you can just indent it. And what you're going to write is the loading model like this. So just make sure you import it from add/app components loading model. And if you save this file, you should just see an active model with no way of closing, because that's what we want. We're going to close it dynamically by just not rendering it. And we are going to use it in Next13's loading pages. So that's why we don't need to create special close actions for it, because we are going to close it ourselves. Great. So I recommend you do this so you can actually see what you're developing. So in the user box component, just wrap everything in a fragment and just add the loading model, which has no props. Great. So now let's continue with this development right here. And outside of your transition child, go ahead and create a div and give this a class name of fixed inset-0 z-10 and overflow-y-auto, like that. Inside of that div, create another one with the class name of flex min-h-full, like this, items-center, justify-center, p-4, and text-center, like that. Great. And now what you can just write is dialog.panel, like this. And inside you're gonna use the clip loader like that with the size of 40 and color of hashtag 02844C7, and make sure it's a self-closing tag like this. And there we go. You should see your little loader right here. And great, that's it for our loading model, because this is exactly what we want to see. So now you can go back into your user box right here. And remember how we have this is loading, but we don't use it anywhere. So that's what we're going to use it for. So now just go ahead and conditionally render this. So inside user box, right, is loading and end, and just render the model like this. And now if you save, it should go away, but when you try and click, for example, on John for a brief second, you should see the loading model like this. And it should go away when it's loaded and redirected right here. Great. And now let's pick some other places where we want this to show. So I'm going to close everything and I'm going to go into my app folder. I'm going to go into conversations, and besides layout and page, I'm also going to create a new component, new file called loading.tsx, like this. And it's just going to be called loading like that. And it's going to return a loading model, which you can import from /components loading model like that, and just save the file. So we're not going to trigger this ourselves. This is only going to be triggered by next 13. So you can see when I try and load the different messages, I can see the loading model for a brief second. Great. And I also want to add this exact thing to our users loading as well. So make sure you go here and add loading.tsx here as well. So just write a quick loading function here like that, and just return a loading model, which you can import from /components loading model. You could copy and paste, it's the exact same one. Great job. So now if you go into users, you can see for a brief second we have this nice loading models. Now it's going to be even quicker in production. And you can see when I select on a user, it shows loading for a brief second. So there are no dull moments in our application. Great job. All that's left to do is to create real-time messages, which is going to be quite simple with Pusher. And we have to create an active status and also some real-time when it comes to adding new conversations or being added in a group chat. We want that to show here in real time without us refreshing, as well as deleting something. We also want that to be reflected here immediately. Great job. So let's continue with our tutorial and let's create a Pusher account, and then we're going to use those environment variables to add some Pusher libraries and connect everything and make it real time. So go into Google and write Pusher API or just Pusher, and make sure you go to pusher.com, leader in real-time technologies. And go ahead and create your account. If you haven't already, you can use GitHub, you can use Google. For my case, I'm going to use Google. And now you should be in this Pusher dashboard screen. So just select channels and click Get Started right here. So you can name your app whatever you want. For the cluster, I recommend leaving everything exactly as it is, and you can go ahead and choose your tech stack if you want. So our front end is going to be React, and our back end is going to be Node.js. But this is just optional. I think it's gonna help with some code snippets, and just click Create App like this. Great, and now you have this example code right here. But we don't have to use that. You can just go in the sidebar and press App Keys right here, and there you go. You should see all of your keys right here. So what I want you to do is I want you to go into your .environment file where you've written some code for Cloudinary, Google, and GitHub right here. And below all of that, I want you to create variables for pusher. So first one is going to be next underscore public underscore pusher underscore app underscore key like this. Below that, we're going to use pusher underscore app underscore ID like this. And below that, we're going to use pusher underscore secret like this. Great. So now you can go ahead and copy your secret and paste it here. You can go ahead and copy the app ID and paste it here. And you can use the app key from the key variable right here like that. Perfect. So now that we have that, you can go ahead and go into the app folder. So I'm going to close everything here. I'm going to go into the app folder here. I'm going to go into libs, and I'm going to create a new file called pusher.ts like this. Great. Now inside, first we're going to install a couple of packages. So go ahead and open your terminal here. And I'm just going to expand this so you can see what we are installing. So go ahead and write npm install pusher and pusher-js like this. So just wait a couple of seconds for this to install. Great. So now that it's back, I'm going to do import pusher server from pusher. So make sure you import pusher server from pusher. And below that, you're going to import pusher client from pusher-js like this. Great. And you can go ahead and run npm run dev again in your project, and just make sure you refresh your local host if you haven't. Great. And now let's go ahead and let's create some utils here. So I'm going to go ahead and write export const pusher server is equal new pusher server like this, and go ahead and give it an app ID of process.environment.pusher_app_ID like this. And for that, you can actually go and compare to your environment. So just make sure that you don't misspell it. If you want to, you can copy it from here. So pusher app ID, and just paste it here so it's the correct thing. And you can put an exclamation point at the end just to protect it against invalid types. Great. And then use the key, which is a type of process.environment.next_public_pusher_key. Again, you can put this at the end right here, and just make sure that it's not misspelled so you can copy and paste. For example, yeah, I misspelled it, so you can just use it like this. Great. And then below that, for the secret, you're going to copy the secret and write process.environment.pusher_secret like this. Put an exclamation point at the end. For the cluster, you're going to use and use TLS is going to be true like that. Perfect. And you're also going to export const pusher client, which is a type of new pusher client like that. And in the first argument, you're going to use process.environment, and you're going to use this next public pusher app key again, and just put exclamation point at the end, and open an object for the second argument, cluster EU as well. Great. So now that you've done that, we actually gonna go ahead and use pusher libraries to create some real-time communication in our messages. So just prepare your conversation, any conversation you want right here, because that's what we're gonna solve first. I think that's the most important part we want to see. We want to see real-time messages. So let's go ahead and let's go into our API, and I want you to select messages route.ts right here. And I'm just gonna expand this a little bit so we have more space here. And in here, I want you to import pusher server from @/app/libs pusher like this. Great. And now that you have the pusher server, you're gonna go ahead all the way to the bottom here after we define this updated conversation and before we do this next JSON response. And what you're going to do is await pusher server.trigger conversation ID. For the second argument, you're going to pass in the handler, which the key, which is going to trigger the update. And that key in our case is going to be messages new like that. And the message you're going to pass is new message like this. So we have the conversation ID and we have the new message defined right here. Great. So this is going to add the new message in real time. And after that, I want you to extract the last message from this conversation. So const last message is going to be updated conversation.messages, updated conversation.messages.length -1. So this is how we get the last message. Great. And now that we have this last message, you're going to go in your updated conversation. Remember, we have not used it until now, so that's why I did it here. And we're going to use .users.map user, open a function like this, and you're going to write pusher server.trigger user.email and put a question mark, an exclamation point at the end. And for the second argument, you're going to use the key of conversation update like that, and then open an object and just write ID conversation ID, and messages is going to be last message like that. Great. Excellent job. And now we have to assign, so this is the pusher on the server. After this, we have to do the same thing on the client, which is going to respond to these messages. So our client is going to expect this message.new and is going to get this new message object and is going to assign it to this body element right here in real time. And what this is going to serve for, well, what this is going to serve, we will see a bit later. So this conversation update is going to serve for this sidebar. So we are also going to create a pusher client bind event to this conversation update in this sidebar right here, and that's how we're going to append a new last message in real time without the need for the user to refresh. Because if I send a new message here, sure, we will update it in real time here, but we also want to update it here where it says John started the conversation. So we want to get the newest message here, and not only for John, but also if we have a group chat, we want to iterate over all of the users in the group chat and send and update the conversation for each and every one of them. Great, so let's go ahead and do that now. So let's go in our body component. So I'm just going to expand this a little bit right here, and I'm going to go into my conversation ID components into body.tsx right here. Great. And beside this use effect that we already have, I'm going to add another use effect. So use effect like this. And this is the place where we're going to subscribe to our pusher and expect all kinds of events. So I suggest that you also keep the messages route open right now so you can understand this better. So first thing we have to do is we have to realize that the channel which we are sending this message a new key is called conversation ID. So every user which is listening to this channel, which in our case is the ID, so the conversation ID is going to get that update. So that's the first thing we have to do. We have to use pusher client, which you can import from /apps/libs pusher. And we have to write .subscribe to conversation ID like that. So let's immediately also put the conversation ID in the dependency array like this. Great. So now the two will be connected. Great. The next thing we're going to do, every time we join a conversation, what we have to do is we have to scroll all the way down to the latest message. So that's what we're going to use this bottom ref for. So go ahead and do bottom ref question mark dot current question mark dot scroll into view like this. Great. And now what we have to do is we have to bind our pusher client to expect this key messages new. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So I'm gonna go and write pusher client.bind messages new, like this. And what I have to pass in as the second argument is a function which is going to respond to what happened. So for now, you can just write an empty function like this. But we're going to create this handler very soon. Great. And important thing, what you have to do is you have to unbind and unsubscribe every time you unmount. Otherwise, that might cause an overflow. So go ahead and write return. So this is an unmount method with the use effect. Great. And inside, I want you to use pusher client.unsubscribe conversation ID and pusher client.unbind messages new, like this. Perfect. Great job. And now we can create this handler right here. So let's go ahead and let's replace this with a constant message handler like this. And also make sure in your unbind message new, you also pass that message handler here as well. And now right here, still inside this use effect, I'm going to go ahead and write const message handler is an arrow function like this. And the parameter is going to accept is message. And the type of message is going to be full message type. We already have that imported because we use it in the initial messages here. Great. And now what I'm going to do inside is first I'm going to install a package called Lodash. So go into your terminal. We're going to use Lodash to simplify some comparisons here. So go ahead and run npm install Lodash like this. Wait a couple of seconds for this to install, and then go ahead and run npm install D at types/Lodash like this. Great. So I'm just going to expand so you can see. So npm install -d types Lodash like that. And after that's been done, you can go ahead and run npm run dev. Great. And when you've run that, just as always, make sure you refresh your local host so you're seeing things up to date. Great. And now we'll go back inside this message handler where we are developing right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to use if find and go ahead and import find from Lodash. So just make sure you import find from Lodash like that. So if find open parentheses right here, my apologies, so not like this. So first thing we have to do is write set messages like this. So we are finally going to use this set messages. Usually we just use the messages right here. So set messages, go ahead and use the current, open an arrow function, and now write an if find current, open an object in the second argument, id is equal to message.id. In that case, return current like that. Otherwise, return spread the current and add the new message. So what exactly did we do here? So this is a message handler which is going to receive the new message from the pusher. First thing we're going to do, we're going to enter our set messages right here, and we are going to get access to the current list of messages here. And then we're going to compare the current list of messages to this special query, which is going to search if there is any message in our current array which already has an ID of this new message that is coming in. So we just want to ensure that we don't accidentally make duplicate messages when doing this function. Great. So now you can go ahead and save this like that. And also inside this message handler right here, I want you to do two more things. So I want you to repeat this bottom ref.current.scroll into view like this. And I also want you to repeat this Axios post conversations scene. So go ahead and copy that. And we're going to do that immediately once we receive a new message. So when we receive a new message, we're going to alert everyone that we have seen that message. Great. So you can go ahead and save this now. I'm going to expand this view. I'm going to refresh right here. Great. I'm also going to have my terminal opened just in case we catch any errors. And I'm going to write a test message right here. And if we did this correctly in a couple of seconds, we should see the message right here. And there we go. You can see that my message has appeared without me refreshing. Amazing, amazing job. We can go ahead and try another message. So a couple of seconds is going to pass because we need to create a message, but then it happens immediately without us refreshing. Great. And you can see that right here, we are still using the old started the conversation. So we're going to have to fix that as well. But great. This was the hard part about the body element. Great job. You can go ahead and try and open 2 chat applications and try and communicate between one another, and you will see that you receive messages instantly. So before we do the conversation thing, one thing I want to enable is I want to enable real-time updating of the scene status of our message. So in order to do that, I want you to go inside scene route. So your scene route should be located inside app API, conversations, conversation ID, scene folder route.ps right here. And I want you to go right here where you have your updated